Hey everyone, it's part 2 of the spooky Halloween DIYs. I just can't get enough. So first we're gonna do heart in my hand. So I have got this pumpkin wire form that I got from Dollar Tree and a skeleton hand, and then I got this chair cover that has kind of a skeleton chest or a skeleton, I don't know what you would call it, the center of a skeleton on it. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut off the front part of it. I know a lot of people have used these for pillows. Totally cool. Absolutely could do that. But I just want the front part, and I want it to be thin enough that a light is going to shine through it. So I'm actually going to just cut off kind of one panel of this. And it's really easy to cut through. It's really basically just thin plastic, so it's super easy to cut through. Then what I'm going to do is, using a combination of small black zip ties and hot glue and burning my fingers and all of the fun things, we are going to stretch this skeleton torso over this pumpkin wire form. And what I actually ended up doing was, I have a little punch that I actually use for earrings so that I can get jump rings into earrings. And I actually ended up using that punch tool to punch holes into the plastic. You can see it's that pink handled tool right there to punch little holes in the plastic so that I could get the zip ties in. And that actually worked out really, really well. I didn't have, if I would have used a knife or if I would have used scissors or something like that, I feel like I would have ripped the plastic probably, and which is fine. You can still use scissors or a knife or whatever you need to get the zip ties in it. But I ended up using this because it worked out really well that the plastic didn't end up, you know, kind of ripping on me or having those tears, which is kind of what I was worried about a little bit. But with this tool, it made it really easy. And so I just ended up using 2 zip ties here on the top. And I believe I used 2 of the zip ties on each side and then 2 zip ties on the bottom. And you just kind of have to kind of just flits and fluts with it a little bit. It's not going to be perfect by any means. It's not going to fold perfectly by any means. It kind of takes a little bit of trial and error. But really, at the end of the day, what you want this to look like is a rounded skeleton torso. And the pumpkin form is what gives that torso its rounded look. And so it works out quite perfectly for the look that we're going for here. And then in between each of the zip ties here from the top, and then I put more zip ties on the side, and then I just used hot glue and I just kind of rolled the plastic up and around the edge, burning my fingers as I go. Notice I have a little silicone finger topper that's sitting right there that I'm not using. Oh, I'm so ridiculous sometimes. Anyway, and you'll just keep going, and you just kind of keep moving along and keep going. You can kind of fold if you need to. You can use your scissors and cut away excess if you need to. You just do whatever you need to, however you need to get this shape and this form into its final position, or its final form, if you will. All right, and there we have it. It is zip tied, it is glued, and that's what it's gonna look like. Then I went ahead and took this piece of paper. It's kind of got some reds and some purples in it. And I just decided that I wanted to wrap up my little tea light in, because my tea light's white, and I wanted to wrap it in this kind of red paper, because what I want this tea light to represent is the heart. And so the heart is going to glow through this plastic, and I don't necessarily want it to glow white. I almost would rather have it glow a red or even a yellow as opposed to white. And so I'm just trying to do things that will shade the color so that it doesn't come through white. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this skeleton hand and I'm going to put some little cuts inside of this top plastic, and I'm going to insert the pinky, or if there is a pinky and a thumb on the skeleton hand, which it's not really clear that there is, but the fifth and the first finger of the skeleton hand, I'm going to insert into these slits that I've made so that it looks like the skeleton hand is gripping onto its own chest. And then you will be able to see what I've done is I've got, yes, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to hot glue so that the hand doesn't move. I mean, it won't move because it is, the fingers are sitting in those slits, and so it does stay on there, but obviously hot glue is better. So, make sure it's nice and stable and secure. Perfect. Yeah, so it's going to look like that skeleton hand is gripping its own chest. And then here's my little tea light. And I'm going to give it just a little bit of hot glue. And then I'm also going to use a zip tie. And I'm going to use those wire, that wire form back there, that pumpkin form. And I'm going to zip tie that tea light right there to the back. And this is going to be the glowing heart that he's going to be holding in his hand. And you don't want it to be too super tight. I didn't want the wire form to, be convoluted, or I didn't want it to, get squished or anything, just enough so that the tea light would stay on there. I did have the orange ribbon at the top, but I didn't like it, so I ended up taking it off. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my glue gun and I'm going to create some blood drips. Obviously, if you're gripping your own chest, then you're going to have blood. And so I'm going to have blood coming off the end of his severed hand. I'm going to have blood coming off of his fingers. And we're going to make this just a little bit macabre here, and you can see there's the light, his heart, and it's kind of flickering there. And yep, and I'm just going to let that hot glue dry, and then once that glue dries, we're going to come back in with some paint, and we're going to paint that hot glue. And I did a mixture of red and black and then a little bit of shimmer, so it's kind of a shimmery dark, almost blackish red. And then I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to paint the dried hot glue. And once that's done, it's going to look like he's got blood on his fingers and coming out of his chest. And you can see it's on the bottom of his bones there. And so it just looks kind of bloody. This is definitely not a cute Halloween decoration. This isn't very cutesy. I did kind of make this a little bit more of a, kind of a macabre one. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and paint the rest of that until it looks how I want it to. And then to finish it off, I'm just going to make a bow for the top of it, just using some black regular ribbon. I just make a really, really simple bow. Nothing super fancy. Again, obviously you can do whatever you want with this. You can get as crazy or as fancy or as, you know, you go wild, do whatever you want to do, but I just decided to do just a simple black bow at the top here. Yep, just nice and easy. Nothing super complicated. And then that's what it looks like when it's done. It's going to make the little cuts in the ends of the ribbon. And then I ended up hanging this on the front door. You don't necessarily have to do that if you don't want to, but this is what it looks like at night, and it just looks like he has his heart in his hand. He's got this little glowy heart, and I really actually liked it. I think it turned out really cool. You could obviously use this as part of your indoor decor as well, but this is out on my front door. All right, next we are going to do a haunted cloche. Most of this I picked up at the Dollar Tree. I've got this little dollhouse. I got some Christmas trees. I've got all kinds of little decorations. I've got a wooden circle. I've got a bowl, and I've got some purple lights. And I've seen a whole bunch of people do these little cloches, and I've seen a whole bunch of people do these little haunted houses with the doll houses, and so I thought I would put it together and create a little haunted house cloche. So basically all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take apart all the pieces of the little dollhouse. All the windows are going to be popped out, all the doors are going to be popped out. The roof is going to slide off, and all of it is just going to come apart, and everything plus the wooden circle is going to get spray painted black, including the Christmas trees. They're white and I wanted them to be black, and so it's all going to go onto a little turntable, and we are going to spray paint everything black. So here it is when it's done. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of tissue paper, just white tissue paper, and I'm putting it on the inside of where the windows and the doors are. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to put lights inside of this little haunted house, and I want something to kind of mute the light, and so I thought tissue paper would work really well, and so I just went ahead and I just laid it in there. I think I did use a couple of pieces of tape just to kind of secure it in there. I did, and this is just kind of going to mute those lights that I'm going to end up putting in there, so it gives it kind of a creepier effect as opposed to a bright light effect. And then what's fun is that these little doll houses come with very little teeny people, which I thought was kind of funny. And so I also spray painted the little people black. And then once I get done putting all the doors and the windows and all the little parts and pieces have to go back, inside their respective places on the dollhouse. And then I just took a silver chalk pen, or a chalk paint pen, or whatever they're called, and I just kind of went through along the roof shingles and just kind of along, you know, the window edges, just to give it kind of a, you know, a spooky, spider webby, you know, kind of old haunted house kind of effect. And then I'll just take a paper towel and I'll kind of buff it and rub it in so it's not so stark and white. It just kind of gives it a, instead of a stark black look, it just kind of gives it a more weathered, aged look to the house. And then I'm going to take those little people and I'm going to hot glue them inside, in front of the doors and in front of the windows, so that when the light shines through, you have kind of this little creepy shadow. Can you see her? This little creepy shadow in the haunted house. So it just has this silhouette, this creepy little silhouette in your haunted house. I thought that was so funny that they have the little people that come with a dollhouse. So I thought, why the heck not? We'll just make this even creepier than it already is. So anyway, I hot glued those inside, just hot glued them right to the tissue paper. And then when the lights obviously are in here, and then these are the lights, and I'm really just kind of trying to put the lights in front of the windows. I put 2 at the top, I put 2 at the bottom of each side of the house. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Obviously it's not, I mean, this isn't rocket science or anything. It just, you're just trying to get the eerie kind of purpley glow from the lights to come through from the house. But I wanted it to be spaced out evenly enough, and so that's why I hot glued them in there, as opposed to just, you know, shoving them inside and then pushing the 2 halves together. I did hot glue them inside, just because I wanted a little bit of continuity of where the light's glow was coming from. And so that's why I ended up doing that. I honestly don't know if it made a difference. I'm sure you could probably just, you know, kind of finagle your lights in there any old way and the glow would come through. So I don't really know that it makes that much of a difference, but that's what I ended up doing. So and then the 2 pieces of the house. Again, this is 2 doll houses. The doll house, you buy them and it's only 1. So this is 2 of the doll houses, and then I put them together like this. So I had kind of a 360-degree view of the house. Then all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my black Christmas trees, I'm going to take some Spanish moss, I had some pumpkins, whatever you want. You can decorate this scene however floats your boat. If you have bats, if you have skeletons, if you can do this however you want to. I had a bag of bones, and so I put kind of a big stack of Spanish moss, and then I stuck the bones out of them so it looks like a big pile of bones. And then I had my trees and my pumpkins and kind of arranged them so that it hid the battery pack. And along the way, as I'm doing this, as I keep adding things, I always make sure that I put the top, the bowl, the top of the cloche, I always make sure that I'm putting it on to make sure that things are fitting, that I've got space around the edges, that there's nothing, you know, that's going to be in the way. And I did notice that my trees were kind of hanging up, so I thought, okay, I'll make my trees crooked and I'll bend the tops so that they'll fit, which is fine because it makes it look even weirder and creepier, and so that works. And yeah, and then I just decorated this, you know, however, kind of a spooky little house here in the middle of the woods. And but again, whatever you have, however you want to do it is totally fine. You know, make the scene you know, however you want to do it. You could make a little graveyard if you wanted. That would be fun. Some dancing skeletons or something. That would be cool. And then you just put the top of your lid of your cloche on, and then I actually went back and added a little skeleton head and 2 skeleton hands on the outside of my lid. I thought that added a little bit more to it and makes it look a little bit more creepy, but this is what it looks like with the light on. If you can see the little dolls glowing, the little silhouettes. I laugh every time I see it, but I think it does make it look creepy, and I think it does make it look, you know, like this kind of creepy haunted house type vibe. Anyway, I love it. I think it turned out really good. I'm really happy with it. And yeah, it was super easy. And so let me know what you guys think down in the comments if you think this is a haunted house and a cloche vibe combined. All right, now we're going to make a ghostly squishy friend. And I know you guys have seen these. Everyone's making these fun little chamois ghost little pillows and all these little things. They're super cute. You just get these, you know, little chamois things at the Dollar Tree. I had 2 that I already had that I'd been using for something else. And so I just took them and I cut the shape of a ghost out of them. And then I'm just going to hot glue these together. Now, normally what you would do is you would hot glue or sew. You could sew these if you wanted to too, but I'm not a sewer, so I just used hot glue. But normally what you would do is you would do these, you know, inside out. And then once you're done gluing and or sewing, you would, you know, turn it inside round, or I don't even know what that word would be, and you would have this really, you know, clean edged pillow or, you know, squishy friend or whatever. However, I decided that if I did this the other way, if I just put the 2 ends together and glued them, then I might get kind of a fluttery end, which would look ghost-like. And so I just glued the 2 ends of the chamois together and then used clips, not paper clips, but like the little file clips to hold the ends together. And then hopefully, at least my thought was that when it's done and it's dry, when the glue is dry, I'll have kind of this fluttery looking ghost squishy, like this little stuffed animal that looks like a ghost, as opposed to pulling the whole thing inside out and having these, you know, really clean edge. I left it, you know, so that the edges aren't as clean, but they look fluttery in my mind like a ghost, if that makes sense. Then I just stuffed it with some polyfill that I had left over. I also had some leftover Dollar Tree bags that I stuffed in there as well to make it poofier. You can use whatever you want. Then I'm going to do the exact same thing with 2 little hands. She's going to have 2 little hands that she's going to hold things with. And these I did do like the correct way, so I'm going to hot glue these together and then I will turn them inside out so that I have a nice edge. Or again, I mean, you could sew this if you wanted to. I'm not exactly sure how easy it is to sew these chamois cloths. They're pretty soft and very microfibery or whatever, and so I'm not sure how easy that would be. Again, I'm not a sewer, so I just used hot glue. And then once these are dry, I am going to turn them inside out. And these are going to be my little hands. And then I'm going to take some magnets. These are the small little neodymium, whatever they're called, magnets. And we are going to make this, our little ghostly friend is going to hold on to a couple of different things. And I wanted to be able to change out her little accessories, and so I'm going to do that using magnets. So here's her little hands. I'm going to turn these inside out, and then we're going to hot glue her hands on. And that's super easy. And then what we're going to do is we're going to give her a couple of magnets onto the middle of her hands. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add magnets to her accessories. And she's going to have her little ghost friend right here that she is going to get to hold on to. And then she's also going to have a cute little lantern that is going to be another one of her accessories that is also going to get a set of magnets. And so I forgot, we have to give her eyes. This is just black felt. Super easy, no muss, no fuss, round circles. We're just gonna hot glue these on for her eyes. Very easy. You could totally give her eyelashes if you wanted to. You could totally make this a boy if you wanted to. Give him a bow tie or something. That would be super cute. Just kind of measuring a little bit. I want to make sure I don't glue the hands too far apart so that she can't grip her little accessories. Okay, we'll just glue her hands on here. Again, I want to make sure I measure so that I don't have too much distance in between her hands so that she can still hold what she needs to. All right, then we're going to go ahead and put her little magnets on. Now, when you glue the magnets onto her hands, it doesn't really matter which side of the magnet you glue on. However, when you glue the other set of magnets onto her accessories, which is the order I'm going in, you definitely want to make sure you pay attention because magnets have a polarity. So if you glue these magnets onto her hands and then you just glue the magnets on willy-nilly onto her accessories and you don't pay attention to polarity, then they could repel each other and not stick to each other when you try to put the accessory onto her hands. And trust me, I've had that happen many times, which is fine. You'll just, you just take the magnet off and turn it around and re-glue it. It's not that big of a deal, but just, pay attention to what you're doing and make sure that the polarity on your magnets is, good so that you can stick her accessories on. And there's her little lantern, and then I have her little ghost friend. So here I am testing the polarity, just trying to figure out which way I need to glue the magnet so that it will stick and not repel. And actually using the flat of my little Cricut tool worked best because trying to do glue on hot glue to magnets with my fingertips was just not working. But actually using that little tool really made it easy to put those little teeny magnets on and not burn my hands all over the place. So it actually worked pretty good. And then this way, it's cool because she can be, you know, holding her ghost, or there she is holding her lantern first. And then if you want to switch her out and have her hold her little ghost friend, then you just unclip the magnet and you have her hold on to her little ghost friend. And the magnets make it easy. You just have to be careful because, you know, obviously this is just a little chamois, you know, it's just a little chamois towel, and so it's not, you know, it's not going to be hugely, you know, it's not going to be stuck on there like cement or anything. So when you're changing out your accessories, just do so gently. Don't, you know, don't rip the magnet or anything. Just be nice and gentle. And then because this is our little squishy ghostly friend and mine is a girl, I'm going to put a bow in her little ghostly hair. But again, if you want this to be a boy, you could put a little bow tie on him or give him some hair, or I don't know, whatever you want to do is totally up to you. We're just going to put a simple little bow in her hair. And I'm just going to hot glue it on. I'm not going to, I'm just making this really super easy and simple. But you're only limited in your accessories by your imagination. You can have your little ghostly friend holding all kinds of different things. I thought it would be really cute to try and find like a little dog toy that was in the shape of like candy corn, but I couldn't find one. I looked all over and I couldn't find a little dog toy that looked like candy corn, but I thought that would be super cute to have her hold as one of her little accessories. I wish I would have found one, but I didn't. But I thought that would be really cute. And there she is. She's just a cute little squishy friend, pillow, whatever. She's holding her little ghost, and here she is holding her little lantern. The lantern does light up. You can, you know, paint or antique the lantern if you wanted to. I just left it raw because I didn't want anything to rub off onto the white chamois. I didn't want to stain it, and so I just left it raw wood, but I think it looks cute anyway. I think she turned out cute. She's my cute little ghostly friend. All right, let's make some magical potions. So magical potions are fun. Everybody loves to make them. I got a whole bunch of different jars from Dollar Tree, and we are just going to fill these up and have fun with them. So to make potions, you can use tap water if you want to, and that's completely fine. If you're just using these for this Halloween season and you're not planning on any sort of longevity, then just use tap water. It's totally fine. However, water does still grow bacteria. So if you're wanting these, like if you're going to seal these, wax these sealed or whatever, then I would highly recommend not using tap water. I am going to use a combination of distilled water and alcohol. And the reason is because then when I seal these, they will not grow anything nasty, and I can use them for years to come in my Halloween decorations. I'm also going to be using just a drop or two of glycerin in each of my potions. This just helps the add-ins that I'm putting in to swirl better. You don't have to. I'm also going to be using the food coloring that I have as a gel food coloring. I honestly wouldn't recommend using gel food coloring because it doesn't stir in well. It leaves little particles that are very difficult to dissolve. If I had to do this again, I would use just regular liquid food coloring. It's so much easier to dissolve. But all I had was the gel, and so that's what we're going to go with, and it's fine. It leaves the little particles. No matter what I do, I can't seem to get them to dissolve, even in the alcohol. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to add your food coloring. This is going to be your base color. And so when all of your other additives are settled at the bottom, and they're not being shook up and they're not being agitated, this is the color that your potion is going to be. So if that's important to you and you want this to be a certain color, then this is the color of your food coloring. So you can see that I've got little little bits in there that aren't dissolving. For your additives, we're going to get a little cup and we're going to put alcohol in it. This is mica powder that I got from Dollar Tree. You can also use glitter. I will do that on one of the potions as well. And we're just going to mix up the mica powder in the alcohol until it dissolves. And you can see it kind of looks mercurial. Mica powder is super cool. And when you shake up a potion with mica powder in it, it gets this swirly effect that just is gorgeous. And then we'll dump the alcohol with the dissolved mica powder into our potion, which again is a mixture of distilled water and alcohol. And you can see that mica powder, it gives it almost this, I don't even know, silvery, mercurial effect. Mica powder is so cool. Obviously, you can use glitter. That would be cool. And so this is all I'm doing. I'm just adding mica powder dissolved in alcohol, and I'm adding it to my potions. I'm just stirring these around. And then all I do is I just top it off with a little bit more distilled water, just to kind of fill it up to the top. Then this orange one is going to get mica powder, but this is my gold dust potion, and so it's also going to get gold glitter in it. You can use both. It makes it super pretty, super glittery, and also has that kind of swirly effect that the mica powder gives it. And because this is my gold dust potion, I wanted it to be both, and so I did add both. Obviously, these are not self-stirring potions. These are ones that you're going to have to agitate and stir yourself when you want to see the blending of your add-ins and your colors and your glitter and things like that. So just keep that in mind. So that looks really cool. You can see kind of the glittery glitter plus the mica. And then here's the mica powder into my kind of teal green one. And then we'll just put the lids on, and the actual potion making itself is done. And then we're going to go ahead and I'll show you how I wrap these in twine. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your twine and you're going to make a loop, and the loop is going to face the top. And then you're going to take your thumb and hold on to the end, the short end of your twine, and then you're just going to take your long end and you're going to start wrapping. Now, keep in mind that these bottles, because of their weird metal enclosure, are very oddly shaped. Normally, if you just had a straight cork bottle or something like that, these would be much easier, but these are oddly shaped because of the metal closure. So I am going to end up using some hot glue on these just to keep the twine from going crazy on these metal, on this metal closure. But normally if you just had a straight cork or a straight neck or something like that, you wouldn't necessarily need to have the hot glue. And you're just going to keep wrapping your twine up around, and you can see the top of my loop is still up at the top of my potion. And you'll just keep wrapping and wrapping. And here's where I got out the hot glue because I needed it to stay. While I was trying to come up those metal, that metal closure that it has. And then once you have it as far as you want it and you are done with your wrapping and it looks the way you want it to, then you're going to cut, leave a little bit of a tail, and you're going to cut it, and then you're going to take the end and you're going to put it through the front side of your loop, like so. And then you're going to take the bottom part and you're going to pull the loop through the bottom so that it pulls your top tail into your wrap. And I usually like to pull on the top, I like to pull on the bottom so it stays nice and tight as the top tail goes into the wrap. And then I'm kind of just finagling and flitzing with it to make sure that it's nice, and then you'll just cut off the ends, and then there you have your wrapped bottle. You can kind of use your nail or you can use a sharp tool to kind of push those ends up into the wrap, and then you have a nice little wrapped bottle. And we're just going to do the same thing to the blue one. So the top of our loop is going to stay at the top. We're going to hold on to the end with our thumb or our finger, and we're just going to start wrapping. Again, this is a very oddly shaped bottle. Normally your bottle wouldn't look like this. And it'd be very easy process to just wrap it around. But again, I had to use hot glue, which is fine. Not a big deal at all. And this is the kind of, I don't want to say fluffy, I guess fluffy is the best word, but it's kind of the fluffy twine. So if you wanted to, you could take your lighter and just go over the ends of the twine so that, you know, and burn off the kind of fluffy ends if you wanted to, which actually might make it look a lot better, to make it look aged and not so new, kind of give it that, you know, old antique-y look to your potion, which would look cool. And just make sure that you keep your loop there up at the top, that it doesn't get lost. And then cut it, and then you're going to feed it through the front portion of your loop. Yep, so it's going to go in just like that, and then you're going to take the bottom and pull, so that the bottom is pulling the top tail into the wrap, just like so. Yep, and I just like to pull nice and tight, kind of flitz with it, make sure that it looks okay, and then you'll just cut off the ends, just like so. Now for the smaller jars, I decided not to wrap the gold dust one, but I did decide to wrap the green one. And this, you don't have to use any special techniques or anything. This is just a regular wrap. So I just took hot glue and I just put the end of it on the end of the twine, and then I just used hot glue to wrap it. No special anything to do that. All right, now we're gonna do wax. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. I'm wax sealing mine. But this is kind of an interesting way to do this. I do not have special candle wax. I do not have special sealing wax. I just went to Walmart and bought the $1.20 melting candle wax, you know, that you put in your candle warmer that smells, makes your house smell nice or whatever. They're super cheap and they come in all kinds of different colors. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to put these wax squares into a cup, a heat safe cup, and I'm going to use a heat gun, and I'm going to melt the wax. And then all I'm going to do is very carefully with a hot pad, I'm going to slowly dump the wax over the top of my potion. And it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to look like you used candle wax or sealing wax, obviously, because I'm not. So it's definitely not going to look like, you know, those professional, the professional sealers, how they seal the wax. But it is going to give this kind of a cool potion-y, drippy, waxy look that I really like. And what I also like is that you can use different colors. And so because this is my rose petal potion, I use the watermelon flavor because it's pink. And so the pink wax, you know, kind of matches my potion and makes it, makes the whole thing just kind of come together, I think, and makes it look cool. So just nice and slow. It does dry. It goes on very liquid. It's hot. Please be careful. Please be careful when you do this. But you'll see that it does dry rather quickly. And so you get those waxy, melty drips. And then I'm just going to go through and I'm going to dump it all over my twine, my wrap. You don't have to. If you don't want to, but I kind of wanted that waxy look all over, so I went ahead and did that. So that's my rose petal potion, and that's going to get the pink, the watermelon wax, so that it's pink. And then I'm going to give it a label that I just did on my Cricut. Nothing fancy, just a label. And then it's my rose petal potion. I think turned out good. All right, and then next we're going to do my unicorn tears. So for this one, I actually wanted to do a whole bunch of different colors. I wanted to do pink and purple and green and yellow. And so at first I thought I could just melt all of the wax cubes together and dump them out and they would retain their color difference as I dumped them out. But I found that that was not working. It was just all coming together in one kind of weird gray color. So I ended up taking each individual color out and dumping them individually. So I had to do the purple and let that do its thing. Then I had to melt the yellow and dump it and do its thing, and so on and so forth. So I had to do each color individually over the top of each other because I couldn't get it to work just doing all the colors at once, because it just ended up being like this grayish color and it wasn't working. So I had to do them individually. So that one took a lot more time than I thought it was going to. But I like all the colors on my unicorn tears. That turned out really cool. I actually wish I would have used a lighter food coloring on this one. I think the unicorn tears turned out a little bit darker. I kind of wanted it to be more of a sky blue, but that's okay. I still am really happy with how it turned out. So, and then this is how they all look together. All of them have their own labels. We've got gold dust, we have powdered frog gills, which I don't even know if that's a thing, but I think it's cool. Then we have rose petals and my unicorn tears. And then there's my galaxy dust, which is my self-stirring potion, which is another video, how I made that, if you guys want to go check that out. And then this is at night when I have my little tea lights on. I shook them up to try and see if I could get some video of all the glitter and the mica and everything swirling around. It's a little bit difficult to see on camera, so I apologize for that. But when you shake them up and you do agitate them, they do look super, super cool. The mica, the glitter, and all of that, it does look really, really cool when you're looking at them in real life. I know it's hard to see on camera, so I'm sorry about that. But you can just kind of see that mica, how it gives it that very swirly, I keep using the word mercurial because I don't know what other word to use, but it just looks so cool. I really, really like mica for potions. I think it looks really just otherworldly, very witchy, and just looks super cool. So there's my rose petals. Yeah, that just looks so fun. Really love the way the wax is dripping down it. And then my unicorn tears. I really like the way all of the wax colors came together. And they kind of are layered up on top of each other, which I think looks cool. Again, I do wish I would have gone with a bit of a sky blue instead of a darker blue on this one. That's why your food coloring color, your base color, is so important, because it's the color it's going to be at rest. But that's okay. I still think the unicorn tears turned out good. So, all right, now let's make a test tube holder. All right, so what I've got is I've got this wire basket that I got at Dollar Tree, 2 of those shelves, those floating wall shelves, and then one of those square wood boards. Oh, and some popsicle sticks and some test tubes. And so what we're going to do is I have cut out this square wood round to size. I just measured the middle of the 2 floating shelves, and then I just cut the square to what the square needed to be to fit inside the 2 floating shelves. And so that's all I did. I just used a Dremel, or not a Dremel, I just used a saw for that. And so those fit in just like so. So then what we're going to do is we are going to take a couple of popsicle sticks and we're going to glue them onto the bottom of the wooden shelf. The only reason I'm doing this is because I want to give the best surface for this wooden square to adhere to the shelf. And the bottom of the shelf has those metal screw holes where you're supposed to put it on the wall. You know, do you see them? The little hooks there for your screws that go in your wall. And I don't want to fill those with glue. I don't want, you know, to lose adhesion or anything when I'm trying to glue that to my wooden square. So I'm just putting some popsicle sticks over it so that now the wooden square can adhere to the wooden popsicle stick, and then that should allow it to have good adhesion. It's the only reason I'm doing that. You don't have to if you don't want to. And then, oh yeah, I had to trim the popsicle sticks because they were a little bit long, and I did not anticipate that, and so I ended up having to trim it. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure this wire basket, and really all I want is the middle wire part. I don't need the curvy parts, I just want the middle wire part. That's the part that's going to hold my test tubes. And so I'm just going to take some wire snippers, and I'm just basically going to cut around the middle portion of this wire rack. I think it's a dish rack, to be honest, or maybe it's a filing rack. I'm not even exactly sure. I just got it in the like the plastic section of Dollar Tree, you know, and they raised the prices and everything's $1.50 now. It was back along their wall. So I'm just going to take some wire snippers and I'm just cutting around the folded edges, and I'm basically just taking those off is basically what I'm doing. It's harder than it looks. And then once the rounded parts are taken off, all you're left with is this flat wire part, that's absolutely perfect. That's what we want. And that's going to go right in the middle of the two floating shelves. And we're just going to hot glue that baby right on the edge. Need 4 hands and a monkey to help me do this, but we got it. We got there eventually. Yep, that's just going to go right in the middle. If you're kind of visualizing here what I'm laying down, and then we're going to put our test tubes through the wire rack, and then it's going to rest on the bottom. The wooden square that we cut out is going to be the bottom part, and it's going to rest on that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this unit here that we've just put together, and we're going to glue it onto the wooden square, the black wooden square, which is right here. Now, of course, because this is my life, when I glued this down, this wooden square is not anything close to being straight or flush. And so it had a lovely little tilt on one end. So I ended up taking a domino. It rocks. You can see it rocks. I thought, oh, I'll put a popsicle stick under here, but that didn't work. So I ended up getting a domino, and I put a domino and hot glued it onto this corner, and then it didn't rock anymore, and then it was nice and level. Oh, gracious. You know, DIY, you know, you just pivot, you just do what you gotta do, you just make it work, and a domino fixed it. And isn't that the way it always goes? All right, so there's our base structure for our test tube holder. Now we're just going to zhuzh it up a little bit. So I'm just going to take some rope, some nautical rope, and I'm just going to glue it on the edges here. And we're just kind of going to decorate this up a little bit. You can do this how you want to. For my part, I'm kind of going to do this a little bit creepy, a little bit morbid, just because that's kind of what my decor style is. It's kind of what I've got going on in my house. This is going to rest right by all my other potions that we made earlier, and so I'm kind of going to do that type of motif, but you know, whatever you want to do, this is however you want to decorate it is totally just fine. Or if you know, you just wanted to leave it plain, and you could even just put some ribbon around the edges that have the hot glue to kind of hide that and cover that up. You could do that as well. Whatever works for you. I used a lot of hot glue. Hot glue is like the best thing ever. It is like, my husband got me this new hot glue gun. You may have noticed I was using the really small little blue one that's like the size of the palm of my hand earlier, and then he got me this one. This thing is so awesome. This thing is so beefy. It uses like the really long glue sticks, and it's just amazing. I love it beyond anything. It makes it so easy and so nice. 10 out of 10 would highly recommend. All right, back to the delights of Spanish moss. I love this stuff so much. It makes everything just old and creepy. So I'm just gonna be very liberal with my use of Spanish moss. We're just gonna hot glue a bunch of this stuff on. It's gonna make it look dirty. It's gonna make it look like these test tubes have been sitting here rotting in this wizard's castle, and just who knows what's growing in them now, but it's all thanks to the Spanish moss. So I'm gonna be nice and liberal with my Spanish moss, and we're just gonna kind of put this all over the place. And then I'm just going to add from my haunted cloche, I had those bag of bones, and we're going to play with some of those here in a minute, and we're going to decorate with those. And then I also had a handful of little rubber rats that I had left over from decorating as part of my decorating stash, and so we're also going to use some of those to make this super creepy and just the most horrid test tube holder that there ever was. Yeah, put some bones in there. The rats have been eating. But I mean, obviously, you know, make this cutesy if you want to, totally. Here's my little rats. We're gonna just put a couple of these guys around, because why not? Strike a nice little ambiance here. Hey, I only used 3. Oh yeah, I did have the bat on there, but I ended up taking the bat off. Yeah, for the rat. Yeah, the rat's better. Much better. Perfect. Yeah, nice. Okay, yep, and then here's my test tubes. Now the test tubes, I wish I could tell you where I got these, but I've had these in my Halloween stash for years. Years and years, and I have absolutely no idea where I got them. I think I got them for a party, a Halloween party that we were gonna throw like 5 years ago, and then never ended up using them, so they've just been sitting in my stash for years. So I honestly couldn't even tell you where I got the test tubes. Maybe Michael's. I honestly have no idea. All right, we're just gonna make some potions. This is the same exact process. I'm using alcohol because I am gonna be sealing this with hot glue. And so we're gonna do alcohol, we're gonna do a drop of glycerin, and then I will end up topping these off with just a little bit of distilled water. Yeah, unfortunately I still only have the gel food coloring. Not my fave. I really need to get some just water, or not water, liquid food coloring and make this so much easier. I mean, gel food coloring is wonderful when you're baking. It really does make it a lot easier, but for this type of thing, it just gets so frustrating because you can't get rid of those little teeny particles. They just will not dissolve no matter what you do. I mean, not that it really matters because your potion kind of, you know, it just all swirls around in there, and so it doesn't, you know, you can't really notice or anything, but it does make it frustrating. So and then we're just going to go ahead and add our mica. These obviously are not going to take nearly as much as the bottles did. This only just takes a little bit of mica. And then we're going to shake these up, top it off with some distilled water, and that's our potion, our test tube potion. That's it. These turned out really fun. I really enjoyed kind of creating these. They were really fun to kind of do little color combinations here. And aren't they fun? They look so cool. And it just takes a little bit, which is nice. So you can kind of create these test tube potions, and it's almost like creating, you know, little samples. So you could kind of create little sample potions and decide if you like the colors and the mixtures, and then do full potion bottles of them if you decide that you really enjoy the combination. So this is a good way to test color combinations and things. Yeah, they look super fun. That one was blue with silver, which I thought turned out really cool. Now I don't fill these all the way up to the top. I know you can, but I prefer not to, just because I like, you know, room to shake. I like room to agitate. That one turned out cool. And so I do not fill these up to the top. I do leave a little bit of room. That one was pretty too. So mica, especially when you use mica, will settle to the bottom of these test tubes or any potion that you're using. Oh, I love that one. It looks like Christmas. And so with these that you're using mica on, I would definitely recommend not just shaking to agitate, but kind of doing this upside down motion where you're taking the sediment, everything that's settled to the bottom, and you're tilting it, because the mica does settle. All right, and here they all are, and we're just going to take hot glue and we're just going to seal these corks. And you can do this however you want to. You can make drips. You can just do a nice thin line. You can do whatever. You are going to get a measure of evaporation. Obviously this is mostly alcohol, so yes, you are going to get some evaporation, and that's totally fine. I mean, honestly, we kind of want that. But it's not going to be as much, and you're not going to lose as much product or as much potion if you seal. So that's why I sealed the bottles, and so that's why I'm doing this at this point right now. So I'm just going to take these and I'm just going to put hot glue without burning my fingers off. A struggle for me, as always. So I'm first going to go around the lip of the glass and the cork, and I'm going to kind of let that dry, and that's going to be my first layer. And then I'm going to go back around, and I'm going to kind of make drips. That's just going to be for aesthetic purposes. It doesn't necessarily have to, you don't necessarily have to do that if you don't want to. As long as you've got a seal between the cork and the glass, that's fine. But I'm just going to go back and make drips just for aesthetic purposes. It is surprisingly hard to put hot glue on these corks and not have them all bump into each other and stick together. Just an FYI. It's probably a much better way to do this than the way I'm doing it right here. And then here I'm just going to make little drippy drips. And then what I did afterwards is you can see that the hot glue dries white, and then I just went in with a gold chalk paint pen and I just gave it a little bit of a gold color just so that they weren't stark white. It just makes it look a little bit more aged. And then I just rubbed it in with a paper towel. But this is how they look. And I just put little, the little labels that they came with, I just put gobbledygook on it. It doesn't really say anything. And then there it is with a little tea light in it, kind of lights them up a little bit, makes them glowy. And obviously these you kind of have to shake up. Again, I would go, upside down so that that sediment gets, all stirred in. But anyway, so now we're going to go from fall to spooky. These are ones that we've done before. So here's the pumpkins that we did in the last DIY video. And we're just going to switch these out from fall to Halloween spooky. And so we are going to take the sand out of the gourds and we are going to change them out for these cauldrons. And I got these cauldrons at Walmart. They were 97 cents. They're just the little cauldrons. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to put the sand from the gourds and I'm going to put them in the cauldrons, and I'm going to switch out the flowers for some black roses that I've had in my Halloween stash forever. And so that's all I'm going to do, honestly. I'm going to just switch out the hanging gourds, and then we're going to have hanging cauldrons instead. And so that we're just switching the aesthetic from fall to spooky. Super easy, no biggie, no big deal. Just switching out aesthetics. It had rained the day before, and so the sand is kind of clumpy. And so I ended up taking this jar and moving the sand because it was a little bit wet and ended up being a little bit clumpy. What I may actually end up doing, because I only have 5 of these roses, these black roses, and 5 cauldrons. So what I may end up doing is going back to the Dollar Tree and getting another pick or two and filling out the roses, maybe with some black leaves or something. Obviously there's no, variation of color. It's just black. And so the glitter, the red glitter on top of the rose kind of makes it stand out, but I think maybe the shape of the leaf would obviously make it look a little bit different as well. And so I may end up doing that just to give it a little bit of, I don't know, a little bit of interest. I'm just using a little bit of a little jewelry plier tool to kind of curl the end of the rose stem just so that it sticks in the sand and will stay in case it gets windy or something, and then they won't just go flying out. The handle helps to kind of hold it in. But I mean, that's it. I mean, nothing crazy, just that's it. And then this is how they look hanging in my rosemary bushes. Just a little bit of spooky cauldron action. And I've got the 3 out front here, and then I've got 2 more off to the side. But they've got cauldrons hanging off them now. All right, next we're going to change out the lanterns. So I took out the translucent fall pattern that we had, and now I'm going to add a Halloween stained glass pattern. All I basically did was went to Google and I Googled Halloween stained glass. You can find images all over the place. I actually ended up going into Canva and measuring these out so that they printed out the measurement that I wanted them to. Last time when I did the fall ones, I honestly just took the pictures and I printed it out in landscape and portrait, and then I just cut them down to size. But if you don't want to mess with that, then you can go into Canva and you can customize the size of these. I am going to include these particular images in the description, so you can download them if you want to, and they will be sized appropriately. But all I'm going to do is, for the small lantern, I'm going to take 3 of these stained glass images and I'm going to put them in 3 of the windows. I printed these, in landscape. So I got 2 images per vellum piece. And then for the tall or the larger lantern, I got one print that I printed in portrait, and so I'll just be using it in 1 pane of the larger lantern. Now you can print out obviously 3 portraits of that if you wanted to. I just decided to do 1. But again, you can do the 3 if you want to. And then you're just going to use just some clear tape, and you'll just tape these on from the inside. Just really easy. But yes, I will have the sized ones that are specific to these lanterns that you can download if you want to. Otherwise, if you just want to use the Google images, you can print them and then cut them. You kind of have to futz with them a little bit to get them to fit, but it's okay. It's, you can still do it. That's what I did with the fall ones. Or you can go into Canva, because in Canva you can adjust and customize the canvas size. And so you can make these and adjust them so that it fits specifically for the lantern. So it makes it a little bit easier. But either way, it works either way. I've done it both ways. And so that's the small one. And then we'll do the large one. And because these print on vellum, which is the really thin paper, I print these off on my color printer and then I let them dry for 24 hours or at least overnight. Because if you try and touch these right as they come out of the printer, you are going to have a mess on your hands. These things smear like crazy. So I lay them out. You'll notice I laid them out nice and flat so they don't curl. And I let them dry completely before I try to handle these and put them into the lanterns, because otherwise it just gets smeary and it gets all over your hands and it smears your image, and it just gets to be such a mess. So definitely let your vellum dry before you try and handle it. And I will also put a link to the vellum. It's just off of Amazon. It's really not that expensive. And so I will put a link to the vellum that I use in the description as well. And then there's the large lantern. I thought that haunted house was so fun. And then here's what they look like with their little tea lights in them. I think they turn out so cute. I love these stained glass lanterns. They're so fun. I'm planning on changing them out for Christmas and everything. I just think they're super cute. All right, so I can't resist. I just can't. Home Depot has these spooky buckets now that they're selling, and I grabbed 2, and I just had to do a floral arrangement with them. I can't help myself. I'm sorry. So I'm sticking it in here as just another one of those. This was fun. Let's do it. So take 2 of the fun new spooky buckets from Home Depot, and I'm just going to dummy fill it with some cardboard. And then I think I got these fall flowers. I think I got them from Walmart, actually, the larger ones. And then the leaf arrangement, the little leaf stem things, I believe I also got from Walmart, but I know you can get them at Dollar Tree, the little leaf ones. So I just put the cardboard in it, and then I'm just going to put some grocery bags around it just to fill it in. These are such cute buckets. I guess Home Depot said that they came out with these buckets for the kids so that they could go trick-or-treating and have a Home Depot bucket. That's a lot of candy, Home Depot, my goodness. But I just thought that they were so cute. I just had to do something with them. So anyway, I grabbed these fall flowers. Like I said, I think I got them from Walmart. And I did end up taking a pool noodle, and I did stick a pool noodle in the middle of that cardboard just to hold the stem a little bit straighter, because this tended to lean just putting it in the cardboard. So I did put a pool noodle in there to hold it a little bit straighter, and I'm just going to stick that right in the middle, kind of futz with it a little bit, and then I'm going to take the leaves that I believe I also got at Walmart. But I know you can get leaves at Dollar Tree, so that would be a cheaper option. But it's just these ones that you put like over your mantle or whatever. They come in like a string. And I'm just going to wrap these around the outside of the bucket. Like so. Just kind of go around and around. So it looks very fall and festive. And what I actually ended up doing is I actually ended up going to Dollar Tree and grabbing those black foam pumpkins. And I actually ended up sticking some black foam pumpkins in these as I was decorating for Halloween, so that they they went from fall to Halloween with just sticking a couple of black pumpkins in with the fall flowers, and it turned out super cute. So, but this particular one I was actually doing for fall, so you don't get to see the black pumpkins. But when going from fall to spooky, it's just as easy as sticking some black pumpkins or, you know, whatever in there. And then on one of the buckets, I did put a black checkered ribbon around it, which also gave it kind of a Halloween vibe, which I thought was cute. And then the last thing I'm going to do, so I'm kind of flutzing and flitzing with this a little bit long, but I'm just trying to get it to kind of stand up and to kind of fill out a little bit. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up taking some nautical rope, and I'm just going to tie it around the lip, the edge of the bucket. And we're just going to tie a very simple knot. It's very rustic, very fall, which looks super cute. But again, the bucket is Halloween-y. And so you can put this on your porch, which is what I did for fall. And I think it looks really cute with the fall foliage and everything. But, you know, once you're going from fall to spooky, it's literally just a matter of, you know, a black bow, some black foam pumpkins, or maybe a cute skeleton, you know, pop that in there, or like one of those foam headstones, you could pop one of those in there. Just anything simple like that, pop that in your bucket, and all of a sudden it goes from fall to Halloween. And it's just as easy as that, and there's not a whole lot that you have to do to take this from one kind of season to the other. So, and then this is what it's going to look like on my porch. Again, I have two of these buckets, and I apologize because my dog would not get out of the shot. But that's the one with the black bow on it. And then like I said, I did put some black foam pumpkins in it. And then this is the one with just the nautical rope on it without the bow. But they look super cute on my porch. And to go from fall to spooky is super easy, just like I said. And I think it turned out great. And I just think that no matter what, you can go and do these fun, super cute DIYs and make them your own and just have the best time with it. What do you guys think?